So what I have learned in plant medicine is that families have recipes. I don't know a better word for it. Families have recipes, and every recipe, everybody's recipe is different. I always joke everybody's bannock is different, and it's true. But with some of the plant medicines and how they've been harvested and the prayers and all of the things that go into the lineage sort of aspect, it's different because the intention of it's relationship with the plant world, reciprocity in regards to taking care of the plants. And if it's something that's grown from seed, which I see a lot, is like the prayers are done before the seeds even hit the ground, and they say, what I learned from the Tarmars, that they say that the medicine changes if they don't get it in within those few days of seasonal. It's a seasonal connection. Let's say within the spring equinox solstice equinox. They have like a 3 or 4 day window, and they say if they miss it by a week, everything else falls out of sync with what the quality of what they're getting in. And so I've learned that so in that level of lineage, how things are passed down through for a reason. And it's like an ongoing, it's a lifetime. I thought I was going to do it for 5 years and then I'd be check, so from a Western perspective of, okay, I did my 5-year ceremonial apprenticeship, but it's like, it really is a lifetime of knowledge and sitting with elders and learning and watching on repeat, and it's a different way of learning, where I think within the psychedelic world, because it's molecules, it has a very different sort of I don't know. It's a different sort of entity, and that's the only word I can use because it's not the proper word, but molecule. And it doesn't go in with the same amount of prayers or sessions. So when I think of universities, I think universities talk about traditional ecological knowledge, but everybody kind of shudders when you talk about spirit, when you talk about, how it came into being and the stories and all of the things, intentions that go through that. That's the difference. And yet I see the purpose of psychedelics because for over harvesting or overuse of certain plant medicines with indigenous cultures, it wouldn't necessarily be a great thing. So I see that, as we're working with psilocybin, which is a renewable plant medicine, which I think is phenomenal, MDMA and how it's worked with, or ketamine, any of those sorts of ones that are made in a lab have very different effect, especially when you talk about like in psychedelics. I know they talk about setting and safety. Safety isn't a first aid course, right? Because for my question would be to you, like, David, as a white heterosexual cis male, how can you ensure my safety, right? As a brown woman, as an indigenous woman, as all of these things. So these are some of the questions that I really ask people to sort of look into themselves. So I think about that. I think about how are we holding these medicines. So when I think of ceremony, I think of for me, like being outside on the land. We just went down to the ocean, and just being on the ocean, I just felt everything calming in my body. And I'm not sure about recreating that within, sort of a more structural place where you're laying on a bed and I hit the music and, that kind of, it's a different type of experience. So when I look at those things, I'm just like, oh, it's so different when you're sitting around a fire and people are drumming and singing songs that are, I don't know how old some of the songs that come through, that we sing and hold space. It's a different way. And I don't think one is better than the other. I think one, it comes from a wisdom lineage, right? Which is different, and a place of connection, which is different than the other ones, which also have their real importance. A friend of mine who's a therapist, he said, Kim, I love MDMA because it's like laying there and being fed grapes. It's such a pleasant experience, and I'm just like, you, like, not to be eating grapes or anything, but just what I know that with the medicines our teachers, and there's a lineage in holding space around that I think is really important. I think, with the ketamine, I was talking to a friend of mine who is a doctor slash paramedic, or paramedic and then became a doctor. And she said they're using ketamine in the hospitals in emergency situations, which I'm just like, for people who are, and I'm like, well, what dosages are they doing? She said, pretty enough high dosages that it stops them from the action of hurting themselves, and for me, I'm like, well, the ketamine, I don't know enough about it, but I know that if it's working with people who are suicidal and it's switching that off for, I think some of the studies I said, like up to 2 weeks, what else could you do in that time, that actually helps rewire the brain into, healing, and there's something in that. I think also within a lineage context is that there are circles, right? We do medicine together, and as a practitioner, it's different for me. Like when somebody comes in to do a ceremony, the person who's doing ceremony, I might take a microdose of that same medicine so that I can be more sensitized to the shifts in their journey, so that I can react, respond in the appropriate way.